why such a disparate reality between the modern depiction of an angel, and even, you know, through the Roman times and into, you know, the Cupid and the cherubs and this type of thing, into the Middle Ages and that art depiction of, you know, the Hallmark cards and the angels of today, right? It makes you wonder what the hell's really going on. And so then, well, I started digging into this a little bit, and we'll get to the Psychopomp in a bit. But so, okay, so that's what's on my mind tonight. This whole idea of the meme. It's actually become a meme. What are biblically accurate angel memes, and why are they terrifying? Is this article that's going to be linked in the description down below if you want to check it out. I ran out of time as we were starting this, so I ended up abbreviating the links, but there's going to be a whole bunch more links on there after the show. In any case, so biblically accurate angels, these memes juxtapose the serene, human-like representations of angels in Western art with their more intimidating depictions in the Bible. This contrast sparked a trend in internet culture in which users transform ancient religious imagery into popular memes. Yes, and some of these memes, as we said, we've seen this, and then shout out to Julie F over on Twitter X as well. She posted this, and I saw this after I had already put the show together, but it's super funny, and it's like this: you have like a beholder tentacled entity, okay, and it says, "Do not be afraid, Kevin. I am God, assuming a form your human mind will find most comforting." Wait, hold on. What am I right now? Normally, I'm like a grandma or a talking dog or something. Wow, Kevin, you must be super messed up, okay? And so we have this tentacled entity that's maybe manifesting in the way that the individual, let's say what that person is expecting to see. What's up, blasphemy? Blasphemy? Whoa, okay, hold on now. So here's the deal, right? Regarding this, like I said, I do know we're kind of tiptoeing some of these blasphemous type of conversations, and it's not like that, please. But what I am suggesting here in the larger sense is, what is this, and how come there's such disparate realities in terms of what these angels quote are? I think Lily's yanking my chain there, but okay. So in any case, the goal here is not to offend anybody. You guys know the drill. We're just having a conversation, talking about these wild ideas. But also shout out to Julie on again, Julie F at Jewels of the Wood on Twitter. Give her a follow. She had a rough time recently, and the only reason I know is because she was posting on it, but she had surgery and some other stuff, and she's back home resting. So thanks to Jules for posting this actual fantastic funny meme, and then also get well soon, Jules, and yeah, Happy New Year. But yeah, just wanted to point that out, that it's funny that she posted this, or at least I saw it after I had put this show together, which is kind of strange. But anyway, so we're talking in terms of not just the biblical angels, but this other thing called a psychopomp. Now, what is that? Yeah, exactly. What the hell is that? Well, it's basically a gatekeeper, sort of a cosmic gatekeeper. Think a car on the Boatman. Think, the Hermes of the old days of sort of ushering souls into the next realm. Okay, something to that effect, right? So check this out. Let's go to Psychopomps real quick and what this means. And so this is what I was thinking. I was like, okay, so it is a Jungian term, Carl Jung, of course. So here we go. So Psychopomps are creatures, spirits, angels, demons, or deities in many religions whose responsibility is to escort newly deceased souls from earth to the afterlife. The role is not to judge the deceased, but simply to guide them. Appearing frequently on funerary art, psychopomps have been depicted at different times and in different cultures as anthropomorphic entities. Horses, deer, dogs, whippoorwills, or will-o'-the-wisps, right? Ravens, crows, vultures, owls, sparrows, and cuckoos. In the case of birds, these are often seen in huge masses waiting outside the home of the dying. And just a quick aside on the masses of birds. What is that thing they call when all the birds are sort of in that group together and they're kind of flying around in like the weird, I don't know, it almost seems like a weird sort of hive mind entity anyway, that's a little bit freaky in that regard. But anyway, just a little aside there, that I know there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is, but I didn't expect to be talking about birds tonight. But in any case, you get the idea, right? So these psychopomps are basically spirit guides, but spirit guides that are supposed to escort the passing on of souls into the next realm, whatever that is, however you want to define that. Like I said, you know me, I'm trying to stay as agnostic as possible in all the ways, because I think that's the best way to not limit ideas and not limit conversation. And so if If yeah, think good thoughts for me. How about that? Because yeah, why not? And so there we go. So that's where we start. That finding the psychopomp, and what I mean by that is maybe this is exactly what we're dealing with. And strangely enough, there's a lot of ways to look at this in terms of let's say entities that present themselves to humans, okay? And going back into folklore and mythology and kind of looking at this through that lens. Think of it this way. Just like the Jules meme there, like I'm a messenger, okay? And I'm sort of putting myself in this space of I look like this because it's going to be more comforting to you, or maybe not. Maybe it's going to be more terrifying, and that as the messenger seems to be exactly what it needs for the particular message. You know what I mean? Sort of picking and choosing the actual entity you show yourself as to get the most out of your message. You know what I mean? If hey Mike, if we got to scare the crap out of you to really get through to you, maybe we'll appear as Cthulhu. You get what I'm saying. Or maybe if it's the opposite, what if it's not that whatsoever? And so I don't know. That's one of the ideas here. But here we go. So the captivating concept of biblically accurate angels or celestial beings whose extraordinary characteristics challenge our understanding of reality and invite us to question the very fabric of existence. Blending scriptural narratives with modern interpretations, we, of course, get into this weird and wild conversation that is not quite as great as this AI writing. But let's see. So beyond mere literary devices or religious motifs, biblically accurate angels emerge as potent symbols heralding transformative potentials lurking just beyond reach. Okay. And once again, why? I think that really becomes the question here. Why do we really have these two disparate realities in terms of scripture and in terms of the hallmark card depiction of what angels are in not just the modern time, in our minds and our hearts and our souls and all those things, but also all the way back into and through and past the days of yore into these original depictions of what these things are. And I don't know, as me, it does make some sense that if we're dealing with entities, whether you believe these are angels or not, whether you believe this stuff is real or not, like I said, that stuff is irrelevant because we're talking philosophically here. But why would these entities actually appear in different guises to different people? And that's my hunch here. That's what I think is happening, that we're dealing with murmuration. That's it. Thank you. The birds, that's what it's called. But so that's my hunch here, is that we're dealing with maybe entities that are appearing to people as different, I don't know, in different times, as different places. And it does make me wonder this too. Here was one of the things that I was kind of brainstorming when we started this, putting the show together an hour and a half ago, so 2 hours ago. The weird part is this. So if, let's say, these biblically accurate angels are showing up as these tentacled, weird, eyeballed entities, the wheel of fire in the sky type of stuff, to, let's say, the men of renown in the old days, okay? Let's say, what do we call them? Sort of like the Merlins, or the the people that are basically enlightened souls walking the earth, okay? However you want to call that, holy men, or this, that, the other, however you want to frame that. But the thing is this. Imagine that you have to be more enlightened, or more, let's say, centered, or more, ready to deal with the reckoning of the darkness of the cosmos itself, to be able to actually see these entities as they are. And meaning that there's a reason why maybe some people that have seen angels, they're sort of more these fair depictions, because maybe we're not as grounded and centered as the old ideas and the old individuals that were enlightened in many different ways. And we talked about one of those ways last night in terms of human resonance and that sort of stuff. Maybe they were way locked into that way back when. And so maybe that's part of it. I don't really know, but it does seem strange to me that we have the two disparate realities in terms of what these things are. So let's see. Back to the meme here. Now, the bizarre part about the meme is it keeps gaining steam. You guys notice this? You see some of this stuff going around on social media. It's going to be on, of course, on Facebook and Twitter X and all the places you would expect, Instagram. But these, be not afraid, angels in the Bible. Now, straight back to this article here. This is all over Reddit, of course, and it's all over Tumblr, of course, which is an old website. I don't even know if it's still up, but it used to be. But the Swole Doge and the angels in the Bible with the tentacles and the weirdness and the no hands and the double-faced, and it just seems so strange. But so biblical depictions of angels are strikingly different from their counterparts in Western art. The cherubim, for example, are described in the book of Ezekiel as having 4 faces, that of a lion, ox, eagle, and human, and straight legs with bull hooves. The prophet Isaiah describes seraphim as 6-winged beings emitting holiness and instilling fear. The ophanim, or the wheels, I think that's how you say it, described by the prophet Ezekiel also, are depicted as interlocking wheels covered with eyes. Now, think about that one. Interlocking wheels covered with eyes, floating in the sky and communicating to you. Telepathically or otherwise, of course, be not afraid. Be not afraid, young man. Yeah, I mean, that's terrifying. Just the idea itself is terrifying. So the meme itself is, of course, entertaining as hell, and it does make you scratch your head and wonder what the hell's happening. But I don't know. Me personally, I don't know. We talk about aliens and we talk about these dimensional entities. Now, of course, we're going to get into psychopomps tonight and some of the other possibilities here. But I do wonder if, sort of back to the Ouija board aspect of this type of thing, when you're dealing with, an unknown entity. And some of them, as you would expect, are not going to be honest, okay? Meaning that they will tell you, I'm grandma or passed on or whatever, right? I'm one of your ancestors. And, let's say maybe, but also maybe not, right? And of course, maybe that stuff is all hogwash anyway, meaning Ouija boards, spirit boards. I don't really know, of course, but that's the deal. If you're dealing with these entities, whatever they are, and they're telling you they're angels, is it possible we've been tricked all along and into believing into these things that are maybe not in our best interest? And I'm not saying angels aren't real. I'm saying, what if you pose as an angel as some sort of interdimensional entity? You get what I mean? That's what I'm saying. And you're telling people that this is what you are, and these are the messages that you'd like to take to humanity. And you get my meaning, sort of the deceptive angle here. But that's the question tonight. That's what's on my mind this evening: is how come these entities are so different in the original texts, the biblical texts of old, and can I say texts? It's text in the old books. How come it's so different than what we are sort of depicted as today in that Hallmark version of this? And we had a hell of a discussion on this the first time around, but it came to me that maybe this is exactly the same thing, the psychopomp, and not just maybe guides or spirit guides, which of course has been pointed out as an angelic thing, okay, meaning that angels are part of that. Everybody's got an angel watching out for them, things like this. But what if it is also sort of a different entity, or maybe a group of entities that are actually doing different things, like sort of in charge or responsible for different things, including these psychopomps, which are supposed to be the spirit guide to take the spirits over into the next realm, whatever that means. Like I said, whatever that means to you. And so I'm not sure. This is the weird one to me, that if we start mixing these ideas and wondering about maybe a psychopomp as having not just the duty to ferry the spirits over, like Carl on the Boatman. He's actually an example of a psychopomp. Of course, he was in Hades, and when the perished souls in Greek mythology go down to Hades, they have to cross the river Styx. And in the days of yore, when somebody passed away, they would put the 2 coins on the eyes of the individual when they buried them, or whatever it is they did with them back then. And of course, those 2 coins were to give to Charon the Boatman, so he could usher you across the river Styx safely and into the home of the souls themselves, where the souls reside eternally. And so that, like I said, is a little bit creepy, of course, but it also makes me wonder if Charon the Boatman could appear to somebody as, an angel, or the Ezekiel's wheel, or any of this other stuff as described in that the biblically accurate meme that's, again, going around and gaining steam, by the way, which is funny that it's gaining steam, because it is perplexing. I think it's one of those things that really, when you read the thing, go back and read it yourself, like we just read there, the depiction of this stuff, it makes you wonder what the hell's really happening here. And it does bring to mind some of the older ways in terms of like the ancient Egyptians. Specifically, like the anthropomorphic deities with like the weird, heads of animals, or this type of thing. So it seems like we have some hybrid happenings here, and I do wonder if there's sort of some deception happening, or again, maybe it's the more hardened your soul, let's say, the more centered and unafraid you actually are, because of course, be not afraid is the thing. that maybe these things can actually show themselves to you as they really are. And that comes to mind as part of this. And why is this happening, I guess? I don't know, just some ideas to start. There's lots of ideas we'll get into tonight, but I don't want to blow all the great ideas right out of the gate. But basically, that's what's on my mind this evening is why so different? And why are we dealing with, not just the Hallmark version, but these weird entities? If you see the background tonight, these just weird angel things with eyeballs on their wings and things like this. Yeah, this is how it's been described. So how come it's changed? And then how come, where's the reckoning on this? And basically just looking for your take because all this stuff is way above my pay grade. And I even kind of don't like talking about it a little bit because it, it's going to get, people tend to get a little rattled with this type of stuff, meaning offended and things like this. But that's not my intention. I promise you that. I'm not here to offend people. It's not what I do on this show. I've done this for years and years and years and years and tried very hard to, not intentionally be a troll and just go after people and anyway, you guys know I don't have to explain myself, but okay. So that's what's going on tonight. A lot of weird things here. So, and there's this great piece. I didn't realize that Big Think had done a thing on psychopomps, but they're calling them gods of the liminal who wait for you when you die. And pretty good stuff. We'll read some of this as well, but I do like the intro. So I'm going to read this real quick and then we'll take a break and Matthew on the phone. So you're dead. You had a good run of it. You loved, laughed, had a few great nights out. You saw the Taj Mahal, heard the Rolling Stones live, and you managed to read the entirety of The Lord of the Rings. But alas, you're dead. Don't be too hard on yourself. It happens to the best of us. As a matter of fact, it happens to all of us. As you lie there, cold and cadaverous on your hospital bed, or mangled and mauled by a bear, a bullet-ridden in some war zone rubble, what happens next? Imagine your spirit lifting from your body, pulled like a tissue from a box, and hovering over your still very handsome corpse. Confused and uncertain. Or, hello, your ghostly voice carries out over the grayscale and muted world. It's the world as you remember, but it's different. The edges of your vision are blurry, and the horizon hits a black wall or nothingness. You're lost, and you're scared. What you need is a psychopomp. Can these celestial beings, like biblically accurate angels, adapt their appearances to communicate more effectively with humans? Or is this merely a product of cultural conditioning and psychological preparedness? That's the line I was looking for, psychological preparedness. Does the notion of dimensional gatekeeping accurately describe their role in facilitating safe travel between realms, or is this something else entirely? Which, of course, brings us to that idea of that psychopomp as we're describing. Again, Hermes is an old one. Charon the Boatman is another one. I've got a list here. Let's see, top 10 psychopomps. And the number one that we all know is the Grim Reaper, of course, the one that's supposed to help ferry your soul to, well, wherever it's supposed to go, hopefully to a nice place. But just a quick way to pick a couple of these out to give you an idea. So Xolotl, I'm not sure how you say it, it takes the 10th spot here from the Aztec underworld. And so he's his most common form is that of a man with a dog's head. But he can also be seen as a skeleton. His most famous transportee was the sun, which the god was said to protect when it ventured into the underworld at night. And then we just talked about Charon the Boatman as well. So a staple of Greek mythology and more famous than some of the others further up the list. Charon ranks lower than them because he didn't guide souls from Earth to Hades, but merely ferried them across the river Styx and Archeron, which are the two rivers Hate and Pain. Unlike many other psychopomps, Charon did not do this for free. He required a donation to be given to him. And to pay this, people would place coins in their mouths of the deceased, hoping to placate Charon. If payment was not made, the soul in question is said to have wandered the shores for 100 years. There are just a couple examples of this in terms of, well, I don't know, how come different entities, not just culturally across the world, are also in, let's say, the Western idea of this and, Christianity and the other things, the angels of Ezekiel, how come they're so different? And that's what's on my mind tonight. This is a weird one because, like I said, it probably hits everybody just a little bit different, and that's why it's good to ask these questions, because what does it mean? And hopefully, like most nights, I can learn something from myself rambling on, but also more often than not, I'm learning things from you guys, so I would appreciate that. What do you know about this? How come these biblically accurate angels aren't exactly as they seem, and they're different? And as well said by YY there, most times they actually take human form as young men. men, this type of thing. So I don't really know. You tell me. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Let's go to Matthew in Colorado. What's my man? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? And go right ahead.
I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound great. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Yeah, love the topic. And I want to talk about some biblical stuff and stories, and also then a bit of psychonaut and psychopomp and experiences I've had. Sometimes maybe that's something I have to share that you're not going to find in a book or somewhere like that is interesting. But on the biblical, I've in the last couple of months done a deep dive into that, and I had done it many years ago. And boy, have I learned a lot. And I learned a lot by availing myself of some really amazing experts that are theologians. One of the guys was, had a PhD in theology, and he was responsible for educating the other priests in biblical interpretation, learning Hebrew, all that sort of thing. And so, really high level of expertise. And he began working with this guy who was doing what are called interlinear translations of texts that would be submitted to the Vatican. So this is like this old, total Hebrew scholar, Catholic guy in cahoots with or got approval from the Vatican for these amazingly precise translations. So just a master at Hebrew, one of the foremost. These guys ended up discovering and getting onto the very same concept and ended up communicating with each other. And they do a series of YouTube presentations. And it's fascinating what they've found out. And I'm just going to kind of make a general point here. If you think that you're going to understand what was written in the ancient scriptures by reading a modern-day King James Bible written in English, you're not. You're just not from what I've learned. If you don't speak Hebrew and go back to the actual original scriptures that haven't been edited, redacted, revised, translated, you're not going to get what they were talking about, and you're going to miss the whole part of the story. And what they were able to piece together, and others have done this, in particular by accurately translating the Hebrew words, is that it starts with the word Elohim. And everybody has always remarked that in the beginning of Genesis and mentions of Elohim, and people that know the word, it's plural. So people don't understand why, supposedly the name of God, Elohim, being a reference to not necessarily a name of God. Some people think it's a name of God, but it's not. Why it's plural, it means they. And so people have always had a hard time, especially a lot of Christian preachers and ministers and theologians, with that concept. And so when you correctly translate it, Elohim means more like the powerful ones, the chieftains, and the rulers. That's what it means. It doesn't mean God. It means the powerful ones, the chieftains, the rulers. And it is plural. And then there are multiple accounts in the scriptures. There's a few, most of it was erased during revisions, but they didn't eliminate all references, and they've been able to piece together and pick out some of the references to other Elohim. In other words, other gods. Now, there was a major revision where most of the mentions of Elohim were replaced by Yahweh. So that's the word that I can say because I'm not Jewish, but Jewish people can't say because that's the name of God, the Ramaton or whatever it's called. They don't know the vowels, so that's why it's the 4 letters without the vowels. But so this guy Yahweh it becomes the main character of the Bible, and that's because it's a conversion of the Bible to monotheism. Like there's one God, but really he's just one of these Elohim dudes that's running around at the time, one of these powerful ones, one of these rulers, one of these chieftains. And there are mentions in the scripture that there's actually a whole council of these, and there's discussions where they're having quarrels amongst themselves, and they go to the council meeting, and there's this guy named Elion, which the L is the same root as Elohim. Elion, and when you translate that, it means something like the supreme and eldest of the Elohim. And so these Elohim guys are running around on planet Earth. They're having some arguments and disputes. They have this council meeting. They go up there to meet with Elion, and he reaches this decision where I'm going to partition up the geography, the lands, and the people in the lands, and you're all going to get basically rulership over a group of those people. Yahweh, he was only one of these Elohim. So he basically gets the Israelites, or the Hebrews. We call them Israelites now, but the Hebrews back then. And so that's his group of people, and he gets the geography, area of Judea. And so that's why when Moses is going in Exodus out of Egypt, that's when this occurs, and he appears on the scene, and he's like, okay, this is my population. I'm going to guide them to my geographical location that I'm in charge of, right? Okay, now, so this is not really an angel. That's not what this guy is. He's an Elohim. Okay, he's a powerful one. And everybody's pretty familiar with the story of Moses going up Mount Sinai and getting the 10 or 15 commandments, the joke from the movie, right, where he comes down with the 3 tablets and he drops one and it breaks. I have the 15 commandments, the 10 commandments, right? You remember that movie?
I have seen that, and that is a funny scene. Absolutely.
Okay, well, there's actually a grain of truth in that, because it turns out he did drop the tablets that's mentioned in Scripture, and he has to go back up there and get them redone. So there is a basis of truth in there. But a lot of people don't remember the story of how it starts. It starts 3 days ahead of time. And Moses goes off to pray or meditate or whatever, and he has a visitation by Yahweh, and Yahweh appears to him. And it's an interesting story because he's like, who are you? And, and he's kind of like a fire in the bush sort of presence. It's more, he's seeing something, but it's more telepathic. He's not like seeing a person in front of him. Can't make out a face. Okay. But it's the presence or the light or whatever. And it's communicating with them, or at least the voice is. And he's basically saying, I'm your God. And Moses is very incredulous. And he's like, who are you? And he gives a very cryptic answer. And he's like, I am the I am. And he's like, yeah, but who are you? And he's like, I am the God of your people and the God of Abraham. I'm that same God. But he's still not given a straight answer. And he's like, but who should I tell my people you are? You want us to, follow you and stuff like who are you? So finally he spits out this name, Yahweh, which is not a name known in any culture, any civilization, any language. We don't know if he's just making stuff up at this point. And so he's saying, I'm the God of your people and you need to follow me. And Moses, being the leader of his people, he's like, wait a minute, buddy. I'm not just going to turn my people over to you. He's like, I need a demonstration of your power. How are you going to be able to protect us? And so he asks to see his glory. Now, that's what you'll see in the King James Bible version is this word glory. And it's an interesting phrase, oh, the glory of God, and I beheld the glory of God. Well, it's a really nebulous word. What does this mean? Like, oh, how wonderful, and oh, it's glorious. No, that's not what it means. When you go to the Hebrew word for glory, it actually translates to this armament, this heavy metal weapon that was mounted at the top of the walls of Babylon at the edge of the city. That was sort of like a giant cannon, to like kill people. That's what a glory in the Hebrew means. And he says, I need to see your glory. I need to see your power. I need to see your weapon, right? So Yahweh tells him, yeah, you can see my glory, but not right now. You got to go meet me on the mountain, and I'll show you my glory. But be aware, you can't look right at it, or it'll kill you. And so you can only look at it as it passes away from you. You can only look at the back part of it. I mean, this is a fascinating story. Okay, so he tells him, in 3 days, I'll meet you on this mountain. Well, interestingly, this star, supposedly star, then follows them for 3 days. So it follows right over this whole tens of thousands of Hebrews migrating and going to Mount Sinai. This light in the sky follows overhead for 3 days. And then on the appointed day, Moses climbs up there, goes up there. Oh, and he also tells him, you got to huddle down in the rocks. So Moses goes up there, huddles down, takes cover under the rocks. This big bright light and this rumbling and this thunderous noise happens, right? And then he hears this big booming voice. And then he gets the Ten Commandments. And then at the last minute, he's able to see basically the back of this giant white light flying thing as it flies off the top of the mountain. Now, he's given this description that the whole top of the mountain is at this time being filled with this smoke and thunderous stuff and fog and lightning, and there's crap going on off there, right? So he comes down off the mountain, and everybody notices his face is like bright red and like sunburnt. And he says he even has to cover up his face for days. He can't be out in the sun. It's like he's totally got radiation burn, right? So it's pretty obvious what's going on here if you're following along and thinking in today's terminology. This is an extraterrestrial. He's got a spaceship. And he's one of these Elohim, these powerful ones, right? And there's a whole bunch of them around at that time. And so he meets with him 3 days ahead of time, says, come meet me on the mountain. I'll show you my ship, my glory, my weapon, to say that I can, protect your people and be your God. I mean, that's what Moses is demanding of him, is prove yourself. And he's like, okay, I'll show you my ship.
Okay, let's hold on. Let's hold on so we don't tell the entire story. That's a big book. So what's going on? So you're basically trying to say that this is like ancient astronaut theorists say. Yes, that's your take here. You think we're dealing with actual entities from elsewhere that may or may not be extraterrestrials or ultradimensionals or whatever you want to call them. That's what we're getting at here.
Yeah, and so pretty much those guys aren't like necessarily angels, and I don't think Yahweh was, quote, the one and only God. He was just one of these Elohim dudes, however they were. I don't know how they presented themselves and appeared, but there's other stories of, I don't know if it was Daniel, Isaiah, or Ezekiel getting taken up on one of these and flown all the way to Jerusalem. There's a story of the glory of God rising up out of the temple, making this thunderous noise, shaking the walls, sound heard out of the temple, and then flying off and landing on the top of the mountain. I mean, they had things flying around. They talked about them. And Ezekiel's wheel within wheel coming out of the sky. I mean, just look at the picture. He's trying to describe something that they didn't have the term UFO for back then. So if you picture a wheel, well, that's a circle with spokes, and then inside that's another circle, right? And that's pretty much a flying saucer, and the thing comes down and lands and basically has these legs that he's trying to discover. And then there's these, angel or type of beings that step out, and then God steps out. And it's pretty much a description of a flying saucer coming and landing right in front of them. And there's vivid descriptions of being on board the craft and describing the interior of the craft and the windows. And it's just, when you know what you're looking for and you read these accounts, it's like there was some stuff going on. And a lot of that's been lost. And it's perhaps one of the more important stories and understandings of the Bible. And like you said, perhaps they were presenting themselves as something other than what they were, or perhaps it's just they had such advanced technology that the people thought of them as gods and angels.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the point here. So why the disparate depictions here? Again, the Hallmark version of the actual angel, but then the interlocking wheels with eyes on them. I mean, that's very, very, very different. And so, do you think there is something happening in terms of we're sort of seeing what maybe not what we want to see or expect to see? Maybe whatever we're encountering or dealing with is actually presenting itself for a particular purpose or reason, maybe culturally, or again through that idea of us being maybe more or less psychologically prepared to deal with what they really are. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but what's your theory there on why there's so many different aspects of the phenomenon that we're talking about here in terms of actual angels being as different as they are culturally and, of course, through history as well?
Yeah, and that's an excellent question, and it's what I wanted to move on to next. But I wanted to cover the first part because I think most of those accounts, those aren't angels. Those are, Elohim or maybe ETs or whatever. Those aren't necessarily angels. So I think we're talking about two type of different, let me just say beings or entities. Now, in terms of angels, I think to answer the question that you asked at the beginning and just now is, I think it's a bit of both. I think that it certainly can be cases where you can see things or your mind will come up with a presentation or a visualization or an appearance that it can handle. I think there can also be cases where, let's say, a visiting angel could present itself in perhaps any form. And I would say, obviously, or quite likely, can pretty much read your mind and find a form that they know that your consciousness is, going to accept and not freak out about. So I think there is part to that. I also have had some experiences where, for me, I would say I've seen angels, not a lot by any means, just a couple rare times. And one time in particular, I would say I saw what they look like, in particular, even a couple different orders or types or levels of angels, sort of like, cherubim, seraphim, lesser angels, stuff like that. And let me give a description of what I saw. Probably the simplest way I could describe it would be if you weren't particularly wealthy and as old as I was, a lot of times for Halloween, your costume was you were a ghost, and your mom took an old, single bed sheet and put it over your head and cut out some two eye holes and a mouth hole and put a string around your neck, and that was your Halloween costume, and you were a ghost. That's similar. So if you kind of imagine that and put your arms out that's a little bit, generally speaking, what an angel looks like. So what I saw, they don't have a defined face at all. Doesn't look human at all. It is like they have a darker gray spots of like two eyes and a mouth, but no face. Pretty much of a head, but no neck. And then they have what you would call arms, but they're fatter and thicker. No hands. And then they have a tapered torso, like you were wearing a robe that got broader as it goes to the bottom. No feet. So they're just made of white light, energy. Okay, there's no physicality to them. They don't look remotely human, except that there's head and two arms. So that's the general form. Now, the interesting thing, of course, they fly, they move, is that from these pretty much solid arms that extend from them, as apparently, my best guess is the way they propel themselves is they sort of shoot out energy from under their arms. It's almost like, and this leaves something like an ion trail or an energy trail, so it sort of gets thinner and thinner. It's almost like an exhaust that comes out from under their arms. And when I saw that, I realized, I was like, oh, that's why in all the historical art of angels, they painted them as having wings, because the people that saw them probably saw something really similar to what I saw, and it kind of does look like they have wings. I mean, they don't have feathers. You know, they're not solid. Like I said, it's just kind of energy and white light.
Okay. Hey,
but it does look kind of like a bird's wing, where it's solid and then it gets frayed and they're flying. So I understand why they depicted wings.
Okay, fair enough. So you've been on quite a bit. We got a call behind you, so we got somebody waiting for quite a bit. So you're saying we're dealing with different things. These entities, so there are angels. They're different than what we're describing in sort of Ezekiel's wheel and that bit. And which you could describe these entities as being different is how we perceive them differently, because they are different. And many of these things, maybe we don't really know how to define them. And I'm just kind of trying to sum up what you're saying here from what I understand, is that we're dealing with lots of things, and the lots of things sort of crisscross in the old ways because we don't really have a way to quantify it. Am I right there? And again, brevity, please. We got a call behind you, so just to let you know. Final thought, my friend.
Yeah, you summarized it perfectly. And just to add in, like I said, there are times you'll get appearances from angels or spirits that can appear in different forms. And like you said, sometimes some people can perhaps see them in their maybe actual form. So yeah, great topic. Thanks for having me on.
And great call. You're the best. Thank you so much. I hate to cut you off. I just, having people wait like that is kind of brutal. You're on fire per usual, but thanks for the call. Happy New Year to you, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night, brother.
Okay, you too. You're the best.
Thanks a lot. That's Matthew in Colorado. You know him, you love him. Great stuff there. Give him a follow. Go buy his book. Links in the description down below, troubledminds.org/friends. 80% off coupon to Troubled Minds listeners. It says Matthew's books here, and the coupon code is right there at troubledminds.org/friends. Thanks for being patient, friends. We're talking about the psychopomps tonight, which are these gods of the liminal spaces that are supposed to wait for you when you die and bring you into wherever you're supposed to go, whatever that means. And there's really several great examples of this. And this is just came out of a brainstorming session of what these sort of biblically accurate angels might be. And well summed up by Matthew there, that maybe we are dealing with a bunch of different things, and they've been sort of conflated into several stories that are not necessarily identical, meaning that the entities themselves are not angels as we've come to know them, let's say. Come to know them. I don't really know, of course, in terms of what this means. all the rest, it's above my pay grade, but it does make me wonder why there's two disparate realities of sort of the angels that kind of give you that, welcoming flow. And then also these wheels within wheels with eyeballs, fires in the sky type of stuff. Very, very, very different. So what the hell's actually going on here? Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubleminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being patient, my friend. Ben, I think it's Ben on YouTube. Am I right? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you?
Yeah. Yes, I'm Ben Hauser.
Welcome to the joint. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. I see you always in the chat on YouTube. Thanks for being part of this. What do you know about this? The biblically accurate angels, and of course the Psychopomp. Do you think this fits, or you don't have to tackle any of that? Just what's on your mind, and what do you think is happening with this? Go right ahead, sir.
Well, I'm a skeptic of all religions.
Okay, which is completely fine. You're in the right place. Let's think about this critically. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So what do you got? So what are we dealing with then? You think this is just our imagination, or what do you got? Go ahead and elaborate.
It might be aliens, but angels, God, I don't know. I think they're aliens.
Yeah, that's similar to what Matthew was saying there, and he was kind of alluding to the fact that we might be dealing with different entities. So what do you think we're actually dealing with then in terms of these, let's say, interlocking wheels in the sky with eyeballs on them? Do you think that's inaccurate, maybe lost in translation somehow, or do you think that's like a terrifying UFO kind of flying down and trying to communicate with people? I mean, what does that seem like to you?
Well, it sounds like a science fiction kind of thing, but it might be a starship. I believe in aliens do exist.
All right, fair enough. So why the two different things? Again, sort of the easy feeling angel that people describe as sort of guardian angels, that type of idea, but then also these really horrific sort of Lovecraftian things. Why the two different aspects, and why? Let's say they are. We're dealing with, in general terms, aliens or dimensional entities or something. Why do we perceive them so differently in terms of either comforting or terrifying? Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I was brought up a Christian, and my dad was a Southern Baptist minister, and I'm very skeptical of religion in general now. If people saw angels, that's man's word. I think they were aliens.
Fair enough. Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, as I'm wont to say from time to time, because who really knows? I think that becomes the question. I'm with you, by the way. I am skeptical of religions themselves because of the control mechanism sort of built in, but sort of the religious principles and the entities and, the idea of God and the rest of that. Like, I'm not so, let's say, turned off from those things. I'm just the sort of when humans corrupt things, that's the part that always made my tinfoil tingle with regard to all religions, not just one in particular, but it always kind of made me go, what is going on here, right? But yeah, amazing stuff. What else you got for us tonight? I appreciate the call.
Well, that's a good question. I pretty much said what all I was going to say.
Fair enough. Thanks again.
I want to wish everybody a happy new year.
And you as well. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being in the chat and always being positive. Thanks for bringing ideas to the show. And thanks for being you. Happy New Year to you and yours. And have a great night. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay. Good night.
Thanks a lot. Good night. That's Ben on YouTube. Appreciate that. He's always very positive in the chat as well. And look, that's why we talk about this stuff. Like, you don't have to be locked into a particular ideology to consider these things, because, of course, as we say, drinking the maybe juice is that bad paraphrase on my part of Aristotle. It is a mark of an educated mind to consider a thought without accepting it. And so that's why this is this is what we do. We talk to each other and consider all these ideas and what the hell's actually going on. And tonight we're talking about that biblically accurate angel. Now, I was doing a little bit of delving, as I want to do, and I came across this term psychopomp as part of this. And I do wonder if this is maybe what we're dealing with. And so, again, the psychopomp is basically this entity that guides our souls from the living to the realm of the dead. Okay, and there's a lot of different psychopomps that are culturally all over the world. Again, thousands of years ago, this type of stuff. But I do wonder if maybe this is exactly sort of the entities of that liminal space that maybe is what we're dealing with in terms of the, biblically accurate angels. Or again, as Matthew said very smartly, maybe these are different entities, and very smartly by Ben, that maybe this is maybe an alien presence of sorts. I don't really know. As I said, a lot of this is going to be speculation, most of it even, because who really is qualified to say it specifically? But of course, we're not here about being right. We're here about ideas and theories and all the rest. So what do you know about it? I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more of this. But this one's eternally fascinating because it is two completely just wild different things in terms of a comforting presence that's, a striking, good-looking adult male that's an angel, possibly with wings, that shows up and kind of, gives you that good feeling of my guardian angel is here. But then we've got interlocking wheels with fire and eyeballs making all kinds of noise in the sky. Two very different things. So clearly and obviously, the most, let's say, striking aspect is maybe we are dealing with two different things. But what if we're not? What if we're dealing with entities that can actually appear to us as we expect them to? Or let's say we have to be, in some sense, what would you call it, psychologically prepared to see them as they are.